Camerupt is a Pokemon that probably has only one fan in VGC, and her name is Pero, and I'm still sorry about forcing her to sit through 8 fissure misses at NAIC. That's right, Camerupt is bad on the competitive scene for many reasons. To start, its stats aren't doing it any favors. 70 HP, 70 defense, and 75 special defense aren't terrible, but aren't good, and would normally be solid if the Pokemon was a glass cannon. However, Camerupt only boasts a base 100 attack and 105 special attack, which with modern day power creep are middling at best. Its only passable stat is a base 40 speed, which people often point to as a reason for its viability as a Trick Room sweeper. They combine this low speed stat with the move Eruption, which is a fire-type spread move that does more damage the more HP the Pokemon has. However, Torkoal objectively does this job better. To start, Torkoal has more bulk with a base 70 HP, 70 special defense, and 140 defense, making it physically tankier by a mile. Torkoal also has a base 20 speed, making it slower than Camerupt, and more importantly, slower than Amoonguss, which many players use as their primary Trick Room answer. The only redeeming quality on Camerupt is that its special attack is 20 points higher than Torkoal, but after multipliers, it still does far less damage. See, Torkoal has the ability called Drought, which sets the harsh sunlight field effect whenever Torkoal enters the battlefield. Sun does many things, including having the power of water-type moves, boosting the power of fire-type moves, and makes the freeze status condition impossible. Since Torkoal is slower than Amoonguss, it can also hold a damage-boosting item like Charcoal or Choice Specs, since it doesn't need to worry about Spore in the same way Camerupt does. So, take a bulky, neutral target like Hisuian Goodra for instance. On an impish nature, max HP Hisuian Goodra, Camerupt does roughly 35 to 40% with a full power Eruption. Torkoal, however, in the sun, holding the Charcoal item, does roughly 50 to 59%. That's a pretty big jump, and we haven't even brought in typing yet. Torkoal is a pure fire type, which is weak to water, rock, and ground. However, the sun effectively gets rid of the water weakness. Camerupt is a fire and ground type, which looks better on the surface. The type combination only has 2 weaknesses in water and ground, but it's a 4 times weakness to water and doesn't set up the sun to mitigate that. Camerupt does get the ability called Solid Rock, which reduces the damage of super effective moves by 25%, but that still makes water a 3 times weakness, and it's the most common type in the game. Even with this ability, an Aqua Jet from max attack Adamant Urshifu, which is one of the most common ways to run the Pokemon, can still pick up a one-hit KO on max HP 4 defense Camerupt. In comparison, Aqua Jet does less than 20% to Torkoal. No, Camerupt has no redeeming qualities, which is seen in the fact that it has a 0.01% usage rate in the current Regulation H meta, and we all know that it's exclusively Pero. So, why am I talking about it? To get you to click on the video and subscribe? I mean, you should subscribe, since it helps me out a ton. But no. You could probably tell by the title, but Camerupt is kind of good in Legends ZA? What do you mean? Who wrote this script? Me? Oh. That's probably my favorite part of Pokémon Legends ZA. The new combat style, combined with the limited Pokédex, gives some of the most unusual Pokémon a chance to shine. Now, I know what you're thinking. People are using Mega Camerupt, right? Well, no, actually. They're using an entirely different set. You see, Season 2 of the ZA Ranked Ladder allows the legendary Pokemon Xerneas, Yveltal, and, secretly, Diancie to be used. Xerneas is on the forefront of everyone's mind, people needed ways to counter it, and Camerupt has the perfect combination of tools that allows it to fill that role. That's right, the Pokemon I just spent 4 minutes trashing is actually just what the meta needs right now. So, let's hop into the builder and see exactly how Camerupt is being used in Pokemon Legends ZA. Hi, I'm noticing that when I do the scripted beginnings, like there's no howdy ho or anything, but that's imperative to my brand. So howdy ho YouTube, gotta make sure that I get that in. I didn't do it in the last one, and that's kind of my fault. But yes, today we are talking about Camerupt, which I know I'm just as surprised as you are. I really wanted to make this video because this was a meta development that I just found so incredibly funny, and it is so cool to me to see a Pokemon that we generally regard as being kind of trash, as being like a real meta threat, in Legends EA. I wasn't kidding when I said that's one of my favorite parts about Legends EA. Such funny Pokemon are good, and it's just really, really fun. So let's take a look at Camerupt. We will not be talking about Mega Camerupt today. I know that a lot of the stuff I talked about in the intro gets fixed with Mega Camerupt, but we're not talking about VGC viability. We're talking about ZA viability. I think that's really important to address. So maybe Mega Camerupt will be good later. I don't really know. But in ZA, it is not. You don't want to use your Mega slot for that. You want to use it for something that's going to be able to disperse more spread damage, live things better, hit faster kind of thing. The speed reduction in Legends ZA for Mega Camerupt is really bad. It goes down to a base 20 speed, which means that its cooldowns are just insanely long, which is really not good. So you really don't want to be using that. So we're talking about base Camerupt today. And you're probably wondering, okay, so what is this like magical set that Camerupt gets that's really, really good? So the reason that you use it is basically this. So you can get this item called Scope Lens, which raises the holder's critical hit ratio by 1 stage. You can buy it at Racine Construction. There's probably a side mission that you could get it from, stuff like that. And there's a move called Focus Energy. If you know anything about VGC, I'm sure you already know this combination. But basically, Scope Lens raises your critical hit chance by 1 stage, Focus Energy raises it by 2 stages. In traditional VGC, when you have your critical hit ratio risen by 3 stages, you have a guaranteed critical hit. It's a 100% critical hit chance. That's really massive. You've seen Pokemon like Hydreigon use that, and a couple of others. Basically, any serious Draco Meteor user will have that combo there. It's really, really cool. Camerupt can do it as well, and you can do it. And the reason for that is because screens are really, really prominent in Season 2. Xerneas itself can set the screens. You can have a separate screen setter. If you remember the team that I had, that I posted in the last video, I used Screens Ampharos on that team, so you can do that. Screens are really, really big, and they really help annoying Pokemon survive. So that's why you want them. So if you're not aware, a critical hit ignores all stat boosts and the effects of screens. So you can, some people are teching Brick Break and stuff like that to break the screens, or you can just ignore them altogether and go with Focus Energy. And then again, remember that, as I talked about in the beginning, its bulk, Camerupt's bulk is not very good in VGC, but in ZA, the damage calculations are different. So its bulk is actually solid in this, so you can literally just run like modest max special attack, max HP to have decent bulk, and then kind of go from there. The other reason that it works really well is it gets access to a few cool moves. First of all, Heat Wave and Earth Power are kind of the 2 big ones. So fire and ground coverage together in this are actually pretty good. You resist Xerneas. You deal super effective damage with 2 individual typings into a ton of Pokemon that really want to handle Xerneas. So, I mean, you have fire for, Skarmory, which you can't hit with ground type moves. And then you have fire and ground for things like Metagross, Excadrill, all that kind of stuff. And the really good thing about these 2 moves is that they're distance and they track. So that means that you don't actually have to be right up next to the Pokemon in order to attack them with it. And it will track the Pokemon as they run away. That's why Heat Wave is just incredible on Pokemon like Chandelure, on Delphox and Mega Delphox, stuff like that. That's why we're all running Heat Wave over things like Flamethrower, because it tracks, it's spread damage, it's really, really good. Earth Power is the same way, it tracks. If you can lock onto a Pokemon and it will hit them, they're really fantastic moves. And so even though you don't have the most amazing bulk on Camerupt, the bulk is also coupled with the fact that you don't have to get close to your opponents in order to use the moves, which is really, really massive. So you can just kind of stick back on the field, target as close as you need to, do the attack, and then run back, stay back. You know what I mean? Typing wise, it's really great into the meta. The only thing that you're like really exclusively weak to is water, and there just really aren't that many water types. Like, you've got Gyarados, but I can't think of any other serious. Starmie a little bit, I guess, but you're not seeing it all that much. I would say Gyarados is more prominent than Starmie. So your water weakness just kind of isn't there. Just people aren't using water type Pokemon. And then ground is really prominent, but all you really need is a switch in for that, which is super, super common. So like Skarmory, for instance, is really great. Some people have started using Emolga. I think is actually like a serious viable option. It's immune and electric type damage is still super good into the meta. So as long as you have a switch in for ground types and you don't, get busted with a Starmie lobby, defensively you're doing pretty okay. And then, so the last move, there is some different stuff you can do. Nobody's really using Earthquake. I don't know how many of these exact moves are actually in the game. Overheat for sure is pretty viable. I mean, it's just an incredibly powerful move. And remember, if you have a 100% crit chance, the stage drop you get from Overheat doesn't matter, because you'll just crit through and it'll be like you're at neutral anyways. So that's really fantastic. So this combination works really, really well with Overheat. There probably are some other moves like Flamethrower, I guess, that you could use if you wanted to, or something like that. But for the most part, I have noticed that they do these moves because Double Fire is still really good. You know, things like AV Metagross are there to like bulk out, and so that way they survive the fire hit. So to like eat the Overheat and then immediately be able to double back in with Heat Wave is really, really massive for some of these incredibly bulky steel types. And then again, because you're weak to ground, because of that fire typing, being able to stay away from things like Excadrill and attack from a distance is really good, because then you can just stay out of the way of the Earthquake, which otherwise is a big problem. Now, you can't really hit Garchomp here, but that's okay. You can find your footing for that elsewhere, so it's really not that huge of a deal. So you're like, okay, Camerupt's great, this is the set. I've personally seen some Mega Camerupt on like ZA ladder, and I've seen some kind of like screens. I don't know if screens, I personally, so I have seen people that have like a screen setter plus this Camerupt. So you like set the screens with the setter, you come out, you click focus energy, you do a bunch of burst damage. I feel like that's just so much setup, you know what I mean? Getting those screens going. Like when I use it with Ampharos, I can set the screens and then switch if I want, but Ampharos can then like, you know, click charge or just start clicking Thunderbolts to kind of deal some damage and tank it out. But you actually really kind of want to be leading with Camerupt. And the reason for that is that a lot of people will want to lead with their screen Xerneas if that's the way that they're going to do it. So this, you can just click that focus energy, they can set up their screens, and then you just like don't care. You know what I mean? It's just that, or if they're not leading with Xerneas, they're leading with the steel types that they're using to answer the Xerneas, which is really big. So generally, I have found that if you're using this Camerupt set, it is the lead for the team, because that way you can just click focus energy and then start hit the ground running. It's a really fast startup. And then just click Overheat, click Heat Wave, click Earth Power, whatever you need. So what would you pair this with? That's kind of the question. Out the gate, I guess for me, I think Skarmory could do really well, because what is Skarmory? Because their type synergy is really good. Skarmory is weak to fire, Camerupt resists. Camerupt is weak to ground, Skarmory is immune to ground, and water type, it's neutral, but again, we don't really see all that much. Camerupt is immune to electric type damage that otherwise Skarmory would get into. So I would say Skarmory, like Mega Skarmory, is pretty good for this. In this particular instance, we don't know its ability. This is assumed. Weak armor? Oh my golly, please don't give it weak armor. You're just gonna run Adamant max attack. 110 speed, that's just above the bump, so you really don't need to put any speed investment in. It would be too much, like something like this. And then whatever the weaker one is, you could do the here just for the 4 special defense. And then normally the moves you're gonna see are you can do Iron Head, you can do Steel Wing, like there's a bunch of options. So what Steel Wing is 70 base power. Iron Head is 80. 30% chance to make the target flinch. You can do Iron Head. I got this comment on the last video when I was talking about Excadrill, and I'm not going to I actually like fully agree with it. Iron Head's hitbox is really bad, so you are seeing some people switch to Steel Wing just because it has a wider hitbox, so it's easier to hit. It is a little less powerful, and you no longer have the flinch chance, but it's just like personal preference. So if you're like, no, I want to run Steel Wing instead of Iron Head, you can totally do that. That's totally fine, but just know kind of the trade-offs and just pick one. And then Brave Bird, some people will run Fly. I think Brave Bird is the better choice. Just like rip it, you know what I'm saying? Drill Run to help to cover for opposing steel types that you otherwise can't hit, and Swords Dance. So I think these two together on a team are really, really good. They cover each other super well. They're both from Gen 3, which I think is super cool. And you know what? They can just handle. So the last mon kind of needs to exist. It could be Xerneas if you're like, okay, yeah, I want to, you know, I just want to win. I want to do really well, because remember, you now have a Xerneas, an opposing Xerneas answer in Skarmory, which is really good. Except, and even if you see that they're running Thunderbolt, then you have Camerupt for them as well. You resist, so you have 2 Xerneas resistances. You could also do something like AV Garchomp, although you do have Ground type right here with Earth Power, so I don't necessarily think that you need Garchomp, because you don't necessarily want an Ice type, because you have two things that are neutral to Ice, so you maybe want an Ice Resistance, or at least another neutrality to Ice, I guess would be my question. And you probably want something with spread type damage. That is a big AoE, and I've talked about this before, Area of Effect, so Earthquake is normally the AoE that you want to go with, but Camerupt, you already have ground type damage, so I don't necessarily see the need. So you could do Starmie then, with, like, I don't know, AV. What's Starmie's special attack? It's okay. Expert Belt Starmie. Let's rate by special attack here real quick. What can we do? What can we do? No. None of these megas, please. The Fable Mega, they don't have a sprite for it yet. Oh, Greninja. Like, Expert Belt Greninja could be good with Nasty Plot. Yeah, a fire resistance. Oops, sorry. A fire resistance, an ice resistance. Yeah, actually, I think you could just go base Greninja. You can do Expert Belt, ma'am, or Life Orb. It's kind of personal preference. Actually, I just like go Life Orb. No ability. We want, what is it? Surf. Dark Pulse. Because you're not running the Mega, Ice Beam, Nasty Plot. Because you're not running the Mega, I actually don't like Water Shuriken for this set. Water Shuriken becomes really fantastic after you Mega, but beforehand, honestly, it's just kind of mid. And you really want the spread damage, like you want the AoE of Surf. So I actually think Surf is the better option for this Greninja set. We're gonna go Modest. The next speed tier you want to hit is 149 for cooldowns, and then just toss the rest into HP, I think. And that'll give you a decent amount of survivability. Can I hit 179? Yes. All right, never mind. I don't care about the slight cooldown reduction. I think is not worth the additional, basically, tick of Life Orb chip you can take from hitting 179. So then there's no point in putting in speed at all. So I would just put the 4 into defense right there. So this personally is like a team you could use. I want to move it here. I always like I just like the Mega to be last personally. This is a team that you could use with this Camerupt set. So we have Camerupt, Scope Lens, Focus Energies with Heat Wave, Earth Power, Overheat. As you can tell, I like setup. I think setup's really good. So having a form of setup on all of your Pokemon generally is, in my opinion, the way to go. So you charge for electric types, Calm Mind, Swords Dance, Nasty Plot, stuff like that. I don't think Greninja gets Calm Mind. If it does, that's actually probably better. No, so it's only Nasty Plot. So Nasty Plot's the way. Because if you're not aware, you don't get 2 stages of boosts in this game. You can only get up to 1 stage of boosts, so you just get a longer duration for the boost instead, which is pretty good. But this is like a team that I would run this Camerupt. Scope Lens, Focus Energy, Heat Wave, Earth Power, Overheat, just max here. A max bulk Greninja, max bulk, because I'd rather have a 9 speed, and I don't want to give up any more bulk on the Greninja. Life Orb, Tera, like Surf, Dark Pulse, Ice Beam, Nasty Plot, and then Mega Skarmory, max bulk. Its speed tier here is, so the speed tier that you want to hit, it goes from 125 to like 149. Because we're so close to 125, but yet still so far from 129, I don't particularly feel the need to invest any more speed in there, because if we do that, yeah, we're giving up a ton of bulk that I'm not necessarily all that comfortable with handing off. So this team, I think, would actually be really good. So if you like it, I hope you do. To give it a go, build it, try it out. I think it's a ton of fun, but that's how you use Camerupt in Legend ZA. So I hope you really enjoyed this video, and I hope that it was educational for you. If there are any other Pokemon that you would like me to make a video on, feel free to comment down below. I would love to hear kind of what you want me to do next. And please make sure to subscribe. Again, ask you to do one thing. Subscribing would really, really help me out. It would be really, really wonderful if you could do that. It tells me that you like these kinds of videos, and it just helps the channel grow and helps me have the capacity to put even more resources into it. So I really appreciate you watching. Thank you so much. Please make sure to subscribe, and most importantly, please remember that you are appreciated. All right, peace.